This is Dave Meltzer with Entrepreneurs the Playbook, and I have another Division III superstar. That's right, an ex-college athlete making it happen off the field. Nick Carparelli is here, the executive director of Bull Season, and he's having quite an impact in building a brand that has been around longer than both of us have been around. Welcome to the Playbook, Nick.
Thanks for having me, David. Looking forward to chatting with you.
You know, I started a podcast 6 years ago, and I never thought it would grow to the point where it is today, that we'd have the community that we have, but also to have the stories that we have, these playbooks of success. And when I saw your podcast, Bull Season Stories, I thought, wow, I didn't think anybody could have better subject matter that would entice me more than my own podcast. But there has to be so many terrific lessons and stories that are around the official podcast of Bull Season. Because talk about credibility, emotional attachment, and value. Those three things are inherent in the Bull games. What made you move in this direction after your sports career has, obviously as an executive been quite successful, to start a podcast about our official Bull season?
Well, you hit it on the head in terms of the emotions involved and the fun and excitement I'm having with the podcast. The podcast was really born out of the Bull Season brand itself, which we launched a little over 2 years ago. And you made the interesting comment that I point out to a lot of people. Bull Season has been around for 100 years, but the Bull Season brand has only been around for 2 or 3 years. When I was hired as the executive director of the Old Football Bowl Association, my charge was to promote this great American sports tradition in a bigger and better way than we ever had before. So my response was, well, the first thing we have to do is we have to have a name. What do we call ourselves? What am I promoting? We try not to outsmart ourselves with the Bowl Season name. I think we stole some time value, that comes with building a brand by picking the Bull Season name, and it's really taken off. And one of our biggest goals, David, is to, as I said earlier, promote the Bull system and tell all the great stories of players and coaches and announcers and fans, all the great memories they have of playing in bowl games, participating in bowl games. So the Bull Season Stories podcast was born. Again, didn't outsmart ourselves with the name. And gosh, I know it's hard to book guests, and I'm not saying it's even easy for us, but depending on what the show is, it's not hard to get guys to talk about their experiences playing in bowl games. Their eyes light up, and as you noted, just such great stories. It's been a lot of fun.
And it's that meaning that we give to history, especially, and the evolution and the fast changing brand itself of Bull Season and where the Bulls have come from and where they're going. I know I sit on the board of the Rose Bowl, and I was honored that I was the only one they knew. I went to Tulane Law School, and they were trying to find someone to sign the helmet in the museum at the Rose Bowl, because to my surprise, Tulane played in the Rose Bowl way back when. And even further to my surprise, Occidental Art College played USC way back when in a game at the Rose Bowl. So there's a lot of history and a lot of meaning to that history. But unlike baseball, the traditionalists are not winning out, right? The Bull Season moves with the times. What are some of the key changes that have occurred in this Bull Season brand that, unlike baseball, that really held back any change? It seems like the Bull guys, the Bull Season, as the executive director, really listens to the fans and accommodates what people want.
Yeah, so that's a good question. A lot of directions I can go with that. Bowl Season is still a great tradition. I mean, fans love watching them. Student athletes love participating in them. I'm a big fan of the playoff. I think a lot of people are surprised when I say that. I mean, I'm a college football fan at heart, and the playoff is great for the game. We need a mechanism to crown a national champion. But at the same time, Bowl Season is equally important. There's 4 slots in the playoff now. They're going to 12. I don't know how many more they could have. Football is unique. As it is, you're asking some guys to play 4 more games after the regular season. So we might be at, close to the limit. That's not enough postseason opportunities for all of Division I college football, right? How many programs are there that in any given year really have no business aspiring to be in the playoff that year, but they're either trying to build a program, rebuild a program. There's a lot of newer emerging programs that are new to Division I that are making some waves, and going to a bowl game, having that experience is really valuable to them. And like we said, creates great memories that last a lifetime. So, bowl season's as strong as ever. It may just have a little bit different role, but it's equally important to the playoff in terms of servicing a larger group of student athletes.
And to that measure, it's also servicing the families of the student athletes. And I know even in the different divisions that exist beyond the bowls, where there's a playoff that has been existing for 30 some years in Division 3, where there's 16 teams, that it's interesting because it's the holiday family experience. So the families that have sacrificed for all those years get to go to San Diego for a holiday bowl, or get to go to Alamo or to Florida. And it really, from my experience over the last 3 decades of being a part of these bowls, I think it's a lot about a family and bonding and building an alumni, as well as the experience for the players getting an opportunity to play in something beyond the regular season. How much is that a part of the bowl season, the family holiday aspect?
I think it's a big part of it. The NCAA, says that the student athlete experience is important, and I don't think that is always demonstrated in terms of the actions of conferences, but I believe it's still to be the case. When you think about other sports, in the summer they go on foreign tours, and it's a great experience for that student athlete to experience the world in other parts of the country. We're in the point of the basketball season now, where we have those early season tournaments where guys and girls are going to the Bahamas and Hawaii and Las Vegas and Orlando. Football doesn't have that. For football, bowl games serve that purpose. And to your point about families being involved, whether it's over the holidays or not, really valuable. If it wasn't for bowl games, football student athletes would be missing out on a really big part of the student athlete experience.
And beyond the players and beyond the family comes the economics. And the economics of bowl season also has expanded. And I think a playoff system obviously will increase the attention and the monetization of bowl season. How much do you see expanding from 4 to 12 teams will do for the monetization of the bowl season?
Well, it'll be interesting to see. I talk to the commissioners on a regular basis. Obviously, they don't, I'm not privy to some of their internal discussions, but, going to 12 teams, it seems like if they can start early, it's going to look a certain way. Once we get past the end of this current contract that they have with ESPN, it may change in a bigger way. It's hard to imagine it won't be a 2-network model where some playoff games are on one network, some are on the other. And we could probably all guess which networks are most likely to share in that. If that's the case, both networks are going to need college football programming leading into the playoff games. You can't just go from having games on championship weekend and then having no college football for 2 weeks or so until the playoff game. So I think the rest of the bowl system and the rest of the bowl games is going to have an increased value as lead-in programming for those playoff games for one or potentially 2 networks.
And beyond TV, we have this new thing called Web3 and blockchain. Because I've been in sports for so long, involved in the bowl season so long, I look at sports and think about, where are the capabilities of blockchain and Web3 most applicable? And looking at bowl season seems to me to be a completely aligned type of content for Web3 and the utilization of NFTs and collectibles and capabilities of fractionalized ownership. There's a variety of capabilities that I think, has there been any discussion or any advancement with Web3 in the bowl season?
We're exploring all these new opportunities, if you will. You named a couple. the advent of NIL, to engage student athletes in promotion of the game and everything else. College football has never been known to move quickly with new opportunities. I think each of the individual bowl organizations is kind of a little bit of a wait and see, and seeing how these things play out and what kind of value they could bring to bowl games. But I think you'll see the bowl system evolving with the rest of the world and the rest of the college football, especially as we get into this next cycle of the CFP and bowl agreements.
As a society, we've been elevated in the political discussions that have been around us for the last 6 to 8 years, and it's raised awareness to some critical social issues that we need to address. But I equate it mostly to the advantage of bowl season, that previous to a playoff system, it was always the conversation that raised the awareness and the interest. Should we have a playoff? Shouldn't we? And then when it was the playoffs with just four, it's who should be in the four. And we've had seasons where two teams were undefeated, as you remember, way back when, and who was number one. And that's probably the best thing that's happened to bowl season, especially, and college football, is just the discussion of what's right and what's wrong and what's fair and what's not fair. Do you see this expansion? Do you see the changes? What are for you the key discussion points, the ones that are most fervidly argued in bowl season now? What do you see as the biggest issues?
Well, I think you're clearly right, David. I think the role bowl season plays in the postseason has changed with the addition of the playoff. Like I said, the playoff is good for college football, and bowl season still has a really, really important role. I think sometimes we take things for granted that have been around for a long time, and you need to kind of, get a little perspective on what you have. I tell people all the time, if bowl games did not exist, and I told you I have this great idea that's going to be a tremendous promotional vehicle for the game of college football. If at the end of every season, every team that's 500 or better gets to play one more game, they've earned that, and they get matched up against a team that they wouldn't normally schedule. They get to play in a destination that they wouldn't normally travel to. And fans of 42 communities across the country get to see a brand of college football that they don't normally get to see in person. And that's going to help promote the game in a unique way. What would you say to that?
Right. Amazing, right?
Pretty good idea, right? But how would
Yeah.
you ever execute it? Right. But the bowl games have been doing that for 100 years. And I think sometimes we have to remember how valuable it is what we already have.
And the last issue that I think gets overlooked with the bowl season as well, one of the key components of my mission in life and my career is to provide equity and inclusion. And it's something that college football and the bowl season have been doing for 100 years, meaning that there's, my mom, for example, who went to Ohio State, never gets excited about even her own kids playing college football. But if Ohio State's playing in a bowl game, it has her full attention for 4 hours. There is a multicultural, multi-generational equity that is, I think, like none other. And there's other sports that brag about this generational, cross-generational equity and inclusion component. But I think the bowl season holds that better than anyone, because there's spirit squads and marching bands and athletic staff and fans and alumni all over the world now that are joining together as a community to positively cheer their team on. How do you see the bowl season helping with equity and inclusion and this bonding and unity that exists within the communities that's so sought after today?
Yeah, well, you bring up a good point there. I mean, it's one of those special times a year on the sports calendar that does bring people together. In terms of, you mentioned equity and inclusion within a family, right? The older generation, younger generation, the moms, the dads. Something about, a Wednesday night between Christmas and New Year's, you turn the TV on looking for a bowl game. You might not even know which game is going to be on. You just know you're going to find one. and you watch it, you take the same regular season matchup, same two teams, you move it from September or November and or October, November, you move it to December, call it a bowl game. Statistically, it gets 2 to 3 times the number of viewers. So people are together over the holidays, and you're right. It brings families together, brings communities together. It's a time where, fans of an institution, whether you live in that state or you went to that school, of all races and genders, they come together. And if they go to the bowl game in person, there's tailgate parties and block parties, and it's just a great celebration of family, of community, and of the game of college football.
And you and I, just to finish up, we both went to small schools where they afforded us the opportunity to play sports, but it gave us also an opportunity to cheer whatever big college we want to cheer. And for you, what team is it that you cheer for during the bowl season?
Well, I went to Syracuse, to get my MBA. That was my first job in sports. I was a graduate assistant for Paul Pasqualoni, and back when we were good, and we went to the Fiesta Bowl. We beat Colorado, I think, a year after they won the national championship, and that was a pretty big deal. And you're always impressionable when you're younger, and whatever your first is. So that was my first bowl experience. That was, I'm very active in the Syracuse community. I'm on David Falk's board of advisors for his sports management programs. David's very active on the board, as well as Sandy Montag and Mike Tirico, and Brandon Steiner, just really legends in the sports world. Sometimes I wonder how I even fit into that group, but yeah, Syracuse is the answer.
All good friends of mine, and add Danny Shays to the mix, and you have a complete set of really extraordinary spirits of excellence, which is what really the bowl season's about, is carrying on a spirit of excellence of over a century of history, tradition, and of course, culture, one that is turned into making a lot of money, helping a lot of people, and especially having a lot of fun. I can't wait to see what's next. Should be the tagline for the bowl season stories, because you never know what's going to happen next when it comes to the bowl season. What a great franchise, what a great brand, and thank you for doing such a great job. Nick Carparelli, the executive director of Bowl Season. Check out Bowl Season Stories. It's an extraordinary time, the official podcast of Bowl Season. Of course, enjoy your favorite teams during the holiday with your families. Thank you, Nick, for joining me. This is Dave Meltzer.